Okay, so I'm going to go over some practice questions here. So the first one is, using the attached table, calculate the relative risk reduction. Well, I didn't talk about this in the first video, but I'll go over it now. It's not too bad. All it really is 1 minus RRR. Well, what is RRR? Relative risk reduction. It's 1 minus RR, I'm sorry. It's 1 minus RR. What is RR? Well, we know relative risk. Okay, so RRR is just 1 minus RR. So all we have to find is this number and subtract it by 1. So what are we going to do first? We're going to start with our table. Okay, we know the table. And we're going to write reality. And we're going to write test, right? Okay, so we see this thing and we're like, okay, well, just plug in the numbers, right? Well, no, because whoever made the test is trying to make it difficult. They make life tough. Life's tough, sorry. And they put the flu on the left and they put the vaccine on the top. Well, no. Reality, we know reality stays on the top. So reality is the flu. And either you have the flu or you don't have the flu. Okay, and then the test is on the bottom. So the test is going to be our vaccines, right? Either you got the vaccine or you didn't get the vaccine. Okay, so what's the first box? Well, the first box is if you have the flu, right? And if you got the vaccine. So you got the vaccine, but you got the flu. Okay, so that's going to be 2. What's the next box? Well, it's going to be if you got the vaccine and you didn't get the flu. Okay, so let's find that. So let's see. You got the vaccine, so where's vaccine? Here's vaccine. And it says no flu, so no flu, 18. So we're going to plug them in like that. All right, this box. You got the flu, right? But you didn't get the vaccine. So where's that going to be? So you got the flu, here's flu. But you didn't get the vaccine, so, well, 15 people. All right, I'm going to plug it in. Last one. You didn't get the flu. And you didn't get the vaccine. Well, no flu. No vaccine. There you go. So this is how we plug it in, right? Not too shabby, not too bad. And now what was relative risk? Remember we just did our tops over our bottoms, right? So what was relative risk, though? Well, it was a cohort study. So it looked in the past or the future. So future or past. And it's trying to just determine if you get the vaccine, are you going to get the flu or you're not going to get the flu, right? It's going to just help us make that determination for the future. Okay, and since it's relative risk, we know it's 1 over 2 numbers. Over 1 over 2 numbers. Okay, but they're asking us for what? Relative risk reduction. So, what are we going to do? We have to calculate relative risk. So the relative risk of getting the flu or not getting the flu with or without the vaccine. So we go top over bottom, right? Okay, so we're going to do 2 over 2 plus 18 over 15 over 15 plus 5. Okay, so you're going to get 2 over 20 over 15 over 20, right? We know we're not doing the math in our heads. We're just going to use a calculator. So we're going to pull up a calculator. And I'm going to go 2 over 20. Got us 0.1, not bad. Over 15 over 20. 0.75, right? And now all we got to do is divide that. So 0.1 over 0.75. We're going to end up with 0.133, and you should be like, oh, I'm happy, right? This should be our answer. So if we look here, we see 0.133. Whoa. Is this our answer? No. We're not asking for the relative risk. We're asking for the relative risk reduction. So all we do, we go to our formula, just 1 minus relative risk reduction, so 1 minus RR. How I remember, I don't like formulas, but how am I going to remember this? Well, let's see. If we have RRR, right? We know this is something not normal. Well, this is what I do. I'm like, you know what? Let me split this in half. So I do R minus RR, right? But that doesn't make sense. So what do? I'm like, okay, well, if I split it, this looks like a 1 how I split it. So I just do 1 minus RR. I don't know, something stupid, but it's how I remember things. I just split it in half. It looks like a 1 minus RR. So now we do 1 minus the 0.133, which we got. And we're going to end up with 0.867. And this is going to be our relative risk reduction. Not too bad. Okay, so we're going to do some review questions now. A study is being done on the effectiveness on the flu vaccine. The data is shown in the table below. Okay, so they gave us a 2x2 chart. Based on the table, how many patients need to receive the flu vaccine for one patient to benefit from it? Okay, what in the world are they asking? So let's take it from the top. Study is being done on the effectiveness of a flu vaccine. So they're trying to see if the flu vaccine is helping or not, right? Effectiveness. And so if they're seeing if it's going to help or not, they're going to look into the future, right? So into the future. Because they don't know, they didn't say anything about past people. They didn't say if there were cases, if there weren't cases. So it's not case control. They're looking to the future. This is going to be a relative risk, right? And what's a relative risk? Well, we know it's a cohort study. Talked about that. Okay, so they're going to try to determine that. Well, what are we asking? How many patients need to receive the flu vaccine for one patient to benefit from it? So this is something I didn't talk about in the videos, but I'll talk about it quick right here. So all that is saying, if they're asking for one patient, they're asking for the relative risk reduction, which it's dumb, but all it is 1 minus the relative risk. So all you got to do is figure out what the relative risk is, and then you'll know what the relative risk reduction is. Not too bad. So let's do it. What do we do first? Well, I do it like this because I know I don't want to get stumped with if they mess up the box or anything like that. I want my box the way my box goes. So I know reality is always on the top, so I'm doing it how I like it. Reality, well, the reality is if you got the flu. Why did that happen? The reality is if you got the flu or not, right? So you got it or you didn't get it. Okay, and then the test, so what they were looking at is the vaccine. Well, if they got the vaccine or if they didn't get the vaccine, not bad. So the table's like how we like it. So we just plug in our numbers 2, 15, 18, and 5, right? Okay, so what was relative risk now? Well, relative risk was comparing if you got the vaccine versus if you didn't get the vaccine. What were the risks what was the risks of getting the flu if you got the vaccine versus the risk of getting the flu if you didn't get the vaccine? So you know we're going this way, right? We're going to the right. So they didn't ask about specificity, they didn't ask about sensitivity, PPV, or NPV. They just asked about relative risk. And we know it's a cohort study, so what does that mean? Well, cohort studies is going to do 1 over 2 numbers, so 1 over 1 plus 1, for example, over same exact thing, 1 over 1 plus 1, right? That's really not the best way to describe it, but it's the way that makes sense in my head. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to start from the top because they're asking to receive the flu vaccine. So if they receive the vaccine or not is what we're testing for. So we're going to go 2 over 2 plus 18, not bad, over 15 over 15 plus 5. Decent. So we have 2 over 20 over 15 over 20. And I'm not doing this math in my head because I don't want to mess up on the test. So I'm going to pull up the calculator and I'm going to go 2 over 20. I'm going to get 0.1. I'm going to go 15 over 20. I'm going to get 0.75. Okay, so now I just have to figure out what that is. I'll do 0.1 over 0.75. And they're going to give us, it's going to be equal to 0.133. Well, if we look here, oh boy, we see 0.133. Don't pick that answer. Read what they're asking you. This is the relative risk. They're asking how many people or how many patients need to receive the flu vaccine for one patient to benefit from it. So that's relative risk reduction. We talked about what relative risk reduction was. It's 1 minus the relative risk. So why? So they're asking one patient, right? So if one patient benefits from it, how many patients need to receive the flu vaccine? Well, these are the people that it helped. So we do 1 minus 0.133. We subtract that and we get the relative risk reduction. So the reduction of the relative risk. It makes sense. 1 minus a number is reducing or subtraction. That's going to equal 0.867. So our relative risk reduction, or the number of patients who need to receive the flu vaccine just so one patient could benefit from it, it's going to be 0.867. Not too bad, right? Okay. Next one. The results of a 4-year randomized controlled trial for a new drug to lower the risk of myocardial infarctions is shown below. Okay, so we know it's something to do with lowering the risk of heart problems. The manufacturer of the new drug claimed it to be more effective than the existing drug. Okay, I don't know why it says that. It should be than the existing drug on the market for lowering the risk of myocardial infarction. Okay, interesting. So we were lucky enough they gave us a chart. Okay. Hold on, before we keep going. Compared to the existing medication, how many patients need to be treated with the new drug to prevent one additional myocardial infarction? So what type of study is this? This is my flowchart on how to break it down. I think it helps the best. Determining the study, determining what they're asking for. Okay, well, if people already have it and people don't already have it, well, it's going to be a cohort study. Because why? I'm sorry. It's going to be a case control study. Why is it case control? Well, because we already have the cases. We have what the cases are. And if we already have the cases, what does that mean? Well, we could be retrospective because it's looking into the past. And what is a retrospective study going to do? Well, it's going to be odds ratio. So we're going to do the odds of one thing over another thing. So what are the odds something's going to happen compared to something else not going to happen? Like the occurrence of one thing over the occurrence of another thing. Okay. Not too bad. So what are we asking for? The patients needed to be treated with the new drug. So they're looking for the NNT, right? Number needed to be treated. Did they give us anything to derive NNT? Well, we know we need the ARR, right? Absolute risk reduction, or AR, right? But to be honest with you, ARR and NNT usually go together. And then AR and NNH usually go together. But like we said, they're the same thing. Like it does the same thing. It doesn't matter if you remember or forgot the names. It's the same thing. Okay. Well, let's draw the box. I know it's redundant, but it helps. So we're going to put reality up top. And we're going to put the test on the bottom. And then we say, okay, whoa. Number of patients treated with the drug. Number of patients treating with existing medication. This is why I always draw the box. They changed it on us. This is not the same. They put myocardial infarction on the side. They put reality on the left instead of on the top. Well, that's not good. We gotta fix it. I gotta make the box how I like making the box to make it make sense. So what's gonna be our reality? Well, if someone got a myocardial infarction, or if they didn't. So if they got it, or if they didn't get it. Wow, that right there is the only reason why I redraw it every time. Okay, so what's the test going to be? Well, treated with the drug. Treatment with drug, right? Treated with drug. And it's either they got treated, or they didn't get treated. Okay, so now, how are we going to organize it? Well, we could see the reality, so myocardial infarction, right? And it says 10 people got a myocardial infarction. Okay. And then it says 990 people didn't get it. Okay, but that's with the new drug. So if you have the drug right here, the positive, right? That means number of patients with the drug is going to be in this column. This column right here, going across. Okay. So if they got the infarction, it says 10 of them. Why isn't, okay, 10 of them, right? And then if they didn't get it, no myocardial infarction, it's going to be 990 of them. Makes sense. Okay. So now, we go to the side. Number of patients treated with existing medication. Okay. So existing medication is no new drug. So they didn't have the new drug, they had the old drug. Okay. How many of these patients had a myocardial infarction? Well, 25 of them. How many of them didn't? Well, 975. So now we have our box, our main guy, right? We know what we're doing now. Okay. Now it should be pretty straightforward to what we've been talking about. So let me go to the side a little bit. So what do we have to find first? Well, the first thing we got to find is our ARR because we're looking for NNT, but in order to get NNT, we got to figure out what the ARR is. And what's the ARR? Okay, absolute risk reduction, right? So we're going to do a little subtraction. It's the test, or not the test, the drug treatment. Let me erase all this. So it's the control minus the treatment, right? So the people who were controlled was the people who didn't get the new drug, and the people who were treated are the people who got the drug. I talked about this in one of the previous videos. That's how you break it down. Okay, so the people who didn't get the drug is the control. So you're going to do 25 over 25 plus 975. Not bad. Minus what? Well, people who got treated. So that's going to be 10 over 10 plus 990. Not too bad. And I'm going to simplify it. 25 over 1,000 minus 10 over 1,000. Fortunately, we know we have a common denominator, so we could do the math on our own. We could do 15 over 1,000. I'm not doing this on my own, even if I know it. I'm not messing up. So I just do, in the calculator, 15 over 1,000. And we get 0.015. Wow, that's a really low number. You must be like, wow, this probably is wrong. Well, let's go look at the answer choices. Oh boy, your stomach drops. You're like, wow, I do not have anything like that. Well, you shouldn't, because we're not looking for the ARR. We're looking for the NNT. And what was NNT? Well, NNT was 1 over the ARR. Okay, so you should be kind of relieved. So NNT is going to be 1 over 0.015, because that's what we just calculated for, right? This guy. So if we have 1 over 0.015, back to the calculator, our answer is going to come out to 66.7, which is 67. So our answer for our question is 67. The number of patients needed to be treated with the drug to prevent one additional myocardial infarction is 67. Remember, super important. Make sure you know what you're doing with this box. He is so helpful. He's your best friend. He's my best friend in these questions. Okay, now, a group of researchers studying the relationship between schizophrenia and unprovoked seizures identified 36 patients who have been rehospitalized for unprovoked seizures following discharge from an inpatient psychiatric unit. Well, that's a lot in one sentence. The sentence didn't even end yet. I'm going to pause, though. I know it's asking for the relationship between schizophrenia and seizures with 36 patients. So these people already had them. So what type of study is it? Well, we know it's going to be a cohort. And that's retrospective. And that's odds ratio. You have to know them. They're all linked together. Because you know it's looking into the past, right? Okay, let's finish that sentence. From a psychiatric unit, and 105 patients recently discharged from the same unit who did not experience these seizures. The results of the study shows. So they give us a box. Good. Based on the information, which of the following is the most appropriate measure of association between history of schizophrenia and unprovoked seizures? What in the world are they asking for this time? Well, if you're confused, like I kind of am when I go through these sometimes, I reread the question and I think about it. I'm like, okay, I broke it down. I saw the seizures. I know it's the past. I knew it was a cohort study. I know it's retrospective. I know it's odds ratio. So if I really don't know what I'm doing, or if I'm really confused, I'm just going to start breaking it down via the scheme that we talked about. I'm going to break it down via this method, the odds ratio way. So first step. Redraw the damn box. Okay, so what is going to be the box, the 2x2 table? Well, we're doing the odds ratio, and we have to do, the top part is going to be what? Well, reality. And the side is going to be the test. So what's reality? Well, they messed up again. Well, they didn't mess up, but they're trying to trick us. So you have schizophrenia or you don't. That's reality. And then what are they testing for? Well, they're testing for if we had a seizure. Well, testing for seizures. So unprovoked or non-provoked, right? Unprovoked seizure or no seizure. So positive or minus. So we'll go schizophrenia first, right? And then if we have an unprovoked seizure, what did we label unprovoked seizure as? Positive, unprovoked, right? Same thing. And what do we label negative as? No seizure. Okay, so if we had schizophrenia, we're in this column. And if it was an unprovoked seizure, there's 20 of them. So schizophrenia, unprovoked, 20. Boom. Now, schizophrenia, right, with no seizure. Okay, so schizophrenia with no seizure is going to be what? Well, you have schizophrenia right here, and you don't have a seizure, so there's going to be 35 of those things. 35. See how the boxes get kind of like all jumbled when they don't tell us what to do? Okay, so now negative. You don't have schizophrenia, right? So if you don't have schizophrenia, you're over here. And then you could have an unprovoked seizure, which we said was positive, so that's 16. So no schizophrenia, but unprovoked seizure, 16. Now, no schizophrenia and no seizure is 70, so you plug them into that column. So this is how we reorganize the box. I'm going to change the colors now just so we could see it better. 16 over 70. Okay, so now we have our box, right? We're good. And they're asking for appropriate measures of the association between history of schizophrenia and an unprovoked seizure. All right, so they're probably asking us for odds ratio. I mean, that's the only thing I could really think of. So how can we do that? Okay, so now all we got to do is do our little odds ratio calculation, which we know how to do. Use 1 over 1 over 1 over 1, right? What are the odds of one thing happening over the odds of another thing occurring? Okay, it's a gamble. Okay, so what do we have to do? All we need to do is remember going from left to right over left to right. Not bad. 20 over 16 over 35 over 70. And you might be wondering, wow, this does not look like anything that we've done in the past. Well, sometimes it's not going to be like that. It's tough. Life's not fair. So how do we do it? We do 20 divided by 16 on the calculator. And that's going to give us 1.25. And then we're going to do 35 over 70, which I know is 0.5, but just to be safe, I'm going to calculate it, equals 0.5, right? And now we have to say, okay, well, what is 1.25 over 0.5? Well, this equals 2.5. Well, we used to get decimals, but whatever, life's not fair. And here's our answer, 2.5. So this is the best way to break it down. Remember, just take it slow. Go through the table, go through the box, and remember the basics. Don't get all caught up in all these jumbling words that they try to confuse us with. I really hate it, but nothing we can do.